Good evening. I hereby call to order the action session of the Board of School Commissioners for Thursday, December 19th. The colors this evening will be posted by the JROTC cadets from Crispus Attucks High School. Would you please stand for the posting of the colors and then the Pledge of Allegiance?
Good evening, sir. The following Crispus Attucks has permission to post the colors, sir. Thank you, sir. Post colors. Colors. Attention. Every color. Forward. March. Color burst. March. Colors. Up. Precinct. Colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Marker. Colors. Upward. Face. Footwork. March. Colors. Up. Red post. Post. Precinct. Arms. Upward. Arms. Left. Face. Forward. March.
Thank you to the cadets from Crispus Attucks High School. Mr. Mulholland, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Arnold,
Here.
Commissioner Collins,
Here.
Commissioner Hawkins,
Present.
Commissioner Slack,
Here.
Secretary Gore,
Present.
Vice President Moore, President O'Connor.
Here. We'll now adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting. The agenda was reviewed on Tuesday and reflects all necessary modifications or additions. Reviewing the agenda, are there any requests for changes to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is adopted. Before we begin tonight's agenda, we'd like to introduce our student performance. Each month, we invite a student group to perform during our action session to showcase the tremendous talent we have here in IPS. Tonight, we welcome the Shortridge High School Better Devils under the direction of Susan Seiler. Please welcome Mary Jo Easley, Nora LaRoche, Liano Ramirez, and Caleb Whitlow as they perform a holiday medley.
Dashing through
two ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and so Miss Betty Bright was seated by my side. The horse was lean and lame, misfortune seemed his lot. He got into a drifted bank, and we got a start. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. But do you recall the most famous reindeer of all? Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer games. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then all the reindeer loved him as they shouted out with glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you go down in history. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. Good tidings for Christmas and a Happy New Year. Oh, bring us a figgy pudding. Oh, bring us a figgy pudding. Oh, bring us a figgy pudding and a cup of good cheer. Good tidings we
Thank you again to our students from Shortridge. Let's give them another round of applause. At each month's action session, we'd like to take a moment to honor individuals who've made a significant contribution to the district by supporting our students and families in an extraordinary way. Tonight, we recognize two people who've made a significant impact. Superintendent Johnson, if you'll join me at the front of the stage, I'll ask Commissioner Arnold to introduce tonight's first honoree.
During each month's board action session, we like to take a moment to honor someone who has made a significant contribution to the district, affecting our students and families in an extraordinary way. Tonight, we are recognizing Maria Paez and Isabel Moreno on behalf of the Jonathan Jennings School 109 PTO for their outstanding dedication and service to the students, teachers, and families of the school. Ms. Paez and Ms. Moreno are both parents of students at School 109 and have been leading the PTO there for 3 years. They are considered valuable leaders in the school community, and along with the entire PTO, they have donated their most valuable resource, their time. When approached with a challenge, this resourceful group of parents, under the leadership of these two ladies, has responded with solutions. They have raised hundreds of dollars for the school. They help run concessions, donate goods to sell at school events, attend after-school activities, and always invite others to help increase participation. They are consistently in the building, checking on their students and on the needs of the school. They provide guidance to new families who are looking to get involved. They even provided dinner for the entire staff for Thanksgiving and Teacher Appreciation Week. They do all of this and more without expecting anything in return. Thank you, Maria Paez, Isabel Moreno, and the entire Jonathan Jennings PTO for your outstanding service and dedication to the students and families of IPS.
We also have a very special student recognition tonight. Aldo Medina is a senior at Arsenal Technical High School and was recently selected as one of only 2 students in Indiana to represent the state as a delegate to the United States Senate Youth Program. As a delegate, he will attend Washington Week in Washington, D.C., March 7th through 14th, 2020. During that time, Aldo will participate in an intensive week of educational activities designed to deepen the delegates' understanding of the federal government and give them direct access to those who lead it. He will also receive a $10,000 scholarship. Aldo serves as a chair of the Indiana Youth Legislative Advisory Council, where he prepares reports for the Indiana General Assembly and represents the council in official meetings with state legislators and government agencies. He also serves on the IPS Superintendent Student Advisory Council. When he graduates, Aldo plans to attend Harvard University, where he's already been accepted to study government. That is wonderful. He eventually plans to pursue a career in public policy or international diplomacy. Congratulations, Aldo, and all of our outstanding achievements. We're so proud of you.
That's wonderful. Moving to Section 3, opening comments. Does any commissioner wish to offer opening comments this evening? Mr. Arnold.
I took a lot of heat last month for telling you what all we had done in November. But I do want to say that December is a great time to be in IPS. There is so much going on. I had the opportunity, I didn't get to every school for every special event, but I would like to thank my FACE liaison, Jose, for keeping me in the loop and letting me know everything that's going on in my district. I had the opportunity to attend the Eleanor Skillen Snowball Jingle Jam and pass out soft drinks, and they had a sock snowball fight. I attended Stephen Foster's holiday dance. At Daniel Webster, they had a shoe and toy giveaway where every student at the school received toys from the Indiana Pacers and a new pair of shoes and socks on behalf of the Indiana Pacers and Shoe Carnival. It was a great event. I attended the Longfellow PTA and dinner with the principal. I went back to Daniel Webster and listened to their holiday musical performance. I want to give a shout out to Ms. Kramer, their music teacher, did a great job with all of their students. And then I went to Raymond Brandy's holiday program last evening, and there's just so many things and so much positive going on in our district. I want to highlight every place I went, a lot of parent participation. The staff was engaged. I want to give a special shout out to custodians. The buildings always look great. They're clean. You never walk in, and whenever you walk in, there are people moving around and doing things. So I think at this holiday time, there's a lot going on. Wish I could have gotten to everything in my district, but we're very grateful to have the staff we have that put on these events to take time. And we're also grateful for all the community partners. Every program I went to, there was some community partnership, whether it was churches or nonprofit organizations or businesses who helped to pitch in to make these events successful. So very grateful, very busy month, a lot going on, and hopefully January will be a little quieter.
Any other commissioner comments? Thank you, Commissioner Arnold, for making me feel bad about how little I've been out this month. We'll now receive public comment from those individuals who signed up to comment to the board this evening. I will remind our speakers that you're allowed 3 minutes to offer comments to the board. A timer will start when you begin, and I ask that you briefly conclude your remarks when you hear the timer go off. Comments should be directed to the board collectively, should not be abusive or disruptive, and should not address a topic that might be of a confidential nature or that would compromise the impartiality of the board. I will also remind our speakers that while the board is happy to receive your comments, we will not respond or answer questions at this time. Please come to the podium and begin your comments when your name is called. Mr. Harris, would you please call our first speaker?
Our first speaker this evening is Jeff Mayo, followed by Rosie Bryant, if present.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Mayo. I'm the music teacher for Matchbook Learning over at School 63 in Hawville. And first to start, I would just like to thank you for allowing us to serve that community in Hawville. So talking about our school and collaboration and commitment. First teacher, a teacher's first view account. So collaboration. Over the summer, we were looking at the schedule and we noticed that we had an influx of enrollment that would impact the schedule that we had. So I was able to sit down with our administration and have a collaborative conversation with them to really look at how we could best serve our students through the special schedule and still honoring the teachers' prep time. So I love working with our administration and with all the teachers to come up with collaborative and creative solutions for our school to best serve our students. So as the only teacher, music teacher for Matchbook Learning, administration early on recognized that I needed to be able to meet with other music teachers. So I'm excited to say that this summer they helped pay for a professional development to support me as a professional to go to Anderson University to study Orff Schulwerk, where I met some other IPS teachers and teachers from across the Midwest who I've been collaborating with to help our students in Hawville with our unique needs. So the commitment to our teachers from administration is amazing. So I actually received a bonus that helped me match the raise that other IPS schools got. Since referendum money didn't directly impact our school and come to our school. And then for this year, my salary was increased to be competitive among and within the IPS schools. So I'm proud to work for Matchbook Learning and to serve IPS in the capacity that we've been allowed at Hawville. So I just want to thank you once again for allowing Matchbook Learning to serve that community. Thank you.
Rosie Bryant. Denise Ford, Lavinia Carter,
Good evening, Superintendent Johnson and members of the IPS Board of Commissioners. My name is Denise Ford, and my daughter attended Lewis B. Russell Jr., number 48, from kindergarten till halfway through her 6th grade year. Although her departure was precipitated by a series of events which were devastating for my daughter, academically and emotionally, that is not why I'm here today. I'm here because of the poor academic performance which has been allowed to continue at School 48 since my daughter had been there. To be clear, staff and administration have been a tremendous emotional and financial support to me and my family throughout the years as we faced our own personal challenges. But again, we are talking about making our children ready for life, to include helping them enjoy learning. As a parent, I have wondered why any school would be allowed to perform below acceptable standards. I have also questioned the real value of another SQR process which focuses on parental input regarding school performance. It seems that the school quality review process could compare schools where academic performance are meeting and or even exceeding local and state standards academically and get their recommendations on how to improve instructional environments for those schools that are failing. And before we stray off focus, socioeconomic factors and racial composition are not the primary factors affecting learning at School 48 or any other poor performing school. If you compare them to Paramount School of Excellence, IPS 87, Phelan Leadership Academies, Tinley Genesis, and Crystal House South. These schools are providing exemplary instruction as documented by their academic scoring. How much more does it take to engage these successful schools in identifying needs to improve any failing school throughout IPS? Paramount had the task of helping my child catch up in the middle of the school year and was able to make it happen for her. What does it take to make this happen for all of the students currently enrolled in Lewis B. Russell Jr., number 48, and other schools operating below minimum academic standards? All children deserve the opportunity to receive a quality education, especially Black and brown children. Thank you.
Lavinia Carter,
Who do I give these papers to? Good afternoon, Superintendent Johnson and members of the IPS Board of Commissioners. My name is Lavinia Carter. My child, Demia, goes to School 48 and is a 5th grader. She just started at the beginning of January. At School 48, there is a disconnect between the students, the academics, the administration, as well as students are not excelling as they were 10 years ago. I myself went to this school, and I cannot remember it being anything like it is today. My daughter told me about a heartbreaking situation regarding another student who was being bullied that forced me to have a tough conversation with my daughter, conversations that even adults in this room can't have themselves. Supposedly, the school had an anti-bullying rally, but they should have done more. They should have told the parents. They should have informed us in some type of way. I didn't even receive any type of information. And when it came home to my daughter, I had to have that tough conversation. It's nothing new that bullying is
very intense nowadays because of social media. And to top off the bullying culture, the school isn't performing academically either. 2 students out of the whole student body passed both parts of the I Learn. This is an injustice. Kids can't read. They can't continue their education. If you can't read, you cannot be successful in this world. My daughter, she has an IEP because she has oppositional defiant disorder and she has severe ADHD. I've sat through meetings with teachers and they tell me that she is reading at a second semester, second grader, and she's in the 5th grade. I'm doing all that I should be doing at home. I'm doing everything that I know to do to make sure that she is successful. She used to get pullouts at her other school. She was going to a charter school, but they don't have that here at School 48 when she feels overwhelmed. I don't believe my child is receiving the best education. And she has additional resources that she should be receiving, but right now at School 48, they are short-staffed. If the school is failing this long, there's a reason why. The best option is just to restart the school and revamp it. It says something about a school if they're failing as long as it has. It's bad. It's bad for the student who attends, and it's bad for the education as well. Something has to change. Thank you.
Vivian Herons.
All right, good evening. My name is Vivian Herons, and I'm a 7th grade teacher at Matchbook Learning, Wendell Phillips School 63. I stand before you today to respond to some of the comments made at last month's board meeting regarding Matchbook Learning and share with you all firsthand the experiences and perspective of a first-year staff member of Matchbook and the incredible things that are occurring at our school. While watching this individual's testimony, I was disturbed to hear some comments from someone who has clearly never visited or attended Matchbook Learning. For example, it was mentioned that our administration was lacking in their support of teachers and not wanting them to advocate for themselves. In my first 6 months with Matchbook, it has been the complete opposite. Our admin team is extraordinary in so many ways. They are leaders who I look up to and I aspire to be like. In regards to the comments made, I want listeners to know that in my experience with Matchbook, I have always been encouraged by our admin team to advocate for myself, but most importantly, my students, and I've been met with support and understanding every step of the way. They always make themselves available to assist and have conversations with staff members regarding questions, concerns, and more, including the conversation around Red for Ed Day. Once the administrative decision was made that we would not have an e-learning day for Red for Ed Day, we were met with transparency as to why, as well as opportunities for open dialogue with administrative staff in which we could express our thoughts regarding the topic. I thought the situation was handled really well by school leadership, and I appreciate always having a space and a time to express my thoughts with them. A second thing that was mentioned that I feel compelled to address is the comment that our school has low morale among its staff. It saddens me to hear that apparently there is a staff member in our building who doesn't feel a part of the community and family that I've been so warmly welcomed into during my first year at Matchbook. This comes as a surprise to me as well because I interact with so many staff members on a daily basis, and I am met with enthusiasm, optimism, passion, and endless support from those around me. It is truly a nurturing environment. My purpose for coming here today is to correct the record from what was said by someone who's clearly never been in our school. I'm living it every day, and this has been my experience. Thank you for your time, and have a wonderful holiday season.
Shanita Mullen. Angela Moss. Kristen Berry. Rosie Bryant. President O'Connor, that concludes public comment for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Moving to the consent agenda, the items included on the consent agenda were reviewed at our agenda review session on Tuesday and reflect all necessary modifications. Are there any questions or requests to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We have one board report and one action item this evening. First, Commissioner Hawkins, would you provide a brief update from the Audit and Finance Committee for us this evening?
Sure can. Thank you, President O'Connor. The Audit Committee of Indianapolis Public Schools met on November 20th to review and accept the audit report recently completed by BKD. A copy of the completed audit report for school year 2018-19 is available on the finance page of the IPS website and is posted with board reports on tonight's agenda. I'm happy to report that our second external third-party audit was a very smooth process with minimal disruption for staff and was completed in a timely manner. Of note, even in a context where financial accounting requirements have increased, the number of findings in our audit decreased, with only one major finding related to the supporting documentation related to the annual report card and high school graduation rate. Corrective actions are in place to address these findings. From a value perspective, BKD provided recommendations for best practices related to IT personnel roles and evaluating cybersecurity risks related to financial transactions. Additionally, the Audit Committee discussed the creation of an Audit Committee charter similar to the Finance Committee charter that would expand the scope of the Audit Committee to include review of internal controls, enterprise risk, and financial and accounting policy. The Finance Committee met for our final meeting of 2019 on December 11th. The committee discussed the facility optimization study timeline and impact on our financial landscape and planning process. We reviewed and discussed the possible financial impacts of decisions regarding the status of the turnaround academies and the Dollar Charter Law, specifically the impact on the bond debt collateralized by Emma Donnan, T.C. Howe, and Emmerich Manual facilities. Currently, the three facilities are collateral for outstanding debt of over $22 million, with the majority outstanding on the T.C. Howe facility. Obviously, decisions regarding the future of these facilities could have a financial impact with regard to securitization of bond debt and could create legal challenges for bondholders, through a trustee or from the multi-school building corporation. Finally, the Finance Committee discussed the creation of an expanded Audit Committee and a revision to the Finance Committee charter to evaluate the strategic focus of the Finance Committee and transfer the internal control review to an expanded Audit Committee. We are currently looking for interested and engaged parents and community stakeholders willing to lend their time and expertise to serving on either the Finance or Audit Committees. If you know anyone who might be interested, please have them reach out to Mr. Young, Weston Young. We will make appointments in January for both committees. That concludes my report, President O'Connor.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. Any questions for Commissioner Hawkins from the Finance Committee? I want to thank both you and Commissioner Slack, and would urge anybody who has interest in financial transparency or the financial structure of the board to participate with that committee. It's a great learning experience. Sometimes there's a lot of numbers on the board, but I think we are as transparent as any public entity that I'm aware of with how our finances work and the information available with regard to that. So I would urge everybody to participate. Hearing no other questions, thank you again. Moving item 5.02, this evening we'll take formal action to approve an appointment to the Indianapolis Public Library Board of Trustees. By statute, this board is authorized to make 2 appointments to the Indianapolis Public Library. The term of one of our appointees, Mr. John Andrews, expires on December 31st. Mr. Andrews has communicated to us that he's not interested in being reappointed to an additional term. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Andrews for his service on the library board, and I know the significant time commitment required to serve well, and I appreciate Mr. Andrews for his time and service to the board. You will recall last year we were actually presented 2 names. We appointed Judge Jose Salinas to the other board appointment, and at that time I said we would consider Dr. Koala Murtada to serve a 4-year term this time. So a little bit of background on Ms. Murtada. She is a respected professor and strong advocate for public education and civic engagement in the city of Indianapolis, and I'm confident she is up to the task of serving as one of IPS's appointees to the library board. Do I have a motion to approve the appointment of Dr. Koala Murtada to the Indianapolis Public Library Board of Trustees as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and quadrupled. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I'll now turn the agenda over to Superintendent Johnson for the superintendent reports.
Great, thank you, President O'Connor. There's actually just one superintendent report to be presented tonight. The first item that you see on the board agenda was item 6.01, which was our school spotlight that Mr. Phil Schultz from Northwest Middle School presented on Tuesday. So very much appreciate him coming and sharing about the great things happening at Northwest. The second item, item 6.02, is our Innovation Network School Selection Update, which will be presented by Jamie Vandewally, our Chief Portfolio Officer. You'll recall that last month we heard from 4 prospective partners. Those were folks who responded to our call for quality partners, and so you will hear 4 additional partner introductions this evening. They include Rooted School, Hope Academy, Allegiant College Preparatory, and Heron Academy. Jamie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Johnson. Good evening, Commissioners. As she mentioned, just a very brief update this evening, some slides that you've seen before regarding our general process and next steps, and then I'll turn the mic over to 4 of our applicants for Innovation Network for next year. So as we've mentioned before, we did receive a total of 10 letters for entering the Innovation Network for school year 2020 or 2021. And on the slide, we've highlighted in blue the 4 organizations that are here this evening. This is also our timeline slide that you've seen several times now, but there's one highlight that I wanted to bring to your attention. So we did, I think last month when I was here, mention that we would probably have to be pushing back the date on which we announced that we would or would not be restarting any schools on IPS. And we'll be doing that now in January. This says January 6th and actually should have been updated to just say January generally as we continue to work through that very complex decision. So we'll be coming back to you, not this month, but next month with any decisions in that regard. That's all that I have there. And with that, then I'll have Rick Anderson, who's the founder and head of school for Allegiant Preparatory Academy, come to the mic and do his introduction this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Johnson and Indianapolis Public Schools Commissioners. I am Rick Anderson, the founder and head of school of Allegiant Preparatory Academy. Before starting into the PowerPoint, I think I would be remiss if I didn't first and foremost acknowledge and say how grateful I am for the opportunity as the school leader and also on behalf of our board for being considered for an opportunity to partner with the Innovation Network and also with IPS. Before getting into the mission, I'll start with myself. I am born and raised here in Indianapolis, Indiana, left in 2004, had the opportunity to attend Florida A&M University, study business, graduated, and jumped into corporate America and worked for a few years. Quickly found out that corporate America, even though you have a pension and a nice company car and gas was paid, that it wasn't serving others in the way that the programming that I went through here and through the socialization growing up in Indianapolis had been instilled in me. In 2011, I moved to Memphis, Tennessee, where I taught, and I'll get into some of the highlights of my time there in Memphis in a few minutes, but ultimately led about over 800 students and about 30 plus adults at one of the highest performing charter schools in the state of Tennessee. Allegiant Preparatory Academy educates all students in grades K through 8 through rigorous academics, character development, and a commitment to community necessary for college success and a life of positive action. The piece that I always like to highlight is community. There's external and there's internal community, and I think first and foremost when we're serving students, we have to cultivate the skills, mindsets, and habits around community and how we treat one another, the people that sit next to us on our left, to our right, to our front and our back, and from creating that strong community within a school, then those students can go out in the community and in the world and build community amongst others that they work and live with. Some of the highlights from results to date, again, during the 2014 and 15 school year at Freedom Preparatory Middle School, as I was leading there, the school was placed in the 92nd percentile in the state of Tennessee for growth. After that year, I stayed within Freedom Preparatory Academy, but I moved to a restart school that was a part of the Achievement School District in Westwood there, and specifically looking at year-over-year growth when it came to on-grade level during that 14-15 school year, specifically looking in kindergarten, about 6.5% of the students at the end of the year were on grade level. By the end of the 15-16 school year, we had grown to about 61%. And At first grade, during the 14-15 school year, about 5% of students were on grade level, and by the end of that 15-16 school year, about 65% of students were on grade level. Now kind of fast forwarding to moving back to Indianapolis, we were authorized by the Indiana Charter School Board in the summer of 2017. We opened in 2018, and I think some things that are really tangible, even though we've only been open for about a year and a half now. We were able, in a startup scenario and environment, to retain over 80% of our staff from year 1 to year 2. We're definitely on track to retain about 80% more going into the 20 and 21 school year. And I think the last thing is to identify that we are a slow growth school. We started with kindergarten and first grade, and then we added second grade this year, and we plan to add a grade each year until we reach a full K through 8, which would be, I believe, 2025. Pillars of our program. So I think in the middle, the first thing is we really, really believe that at all schools serving students, that the priority has to be respect for students. And when we say respect for students, time is very essential. So we really, really optimize every single moment of instruction to ensure that the students we serve are getting quality and rigorous instruction from the minute they walk into the building to the minute that they walk out. Some of the things that go along with that, I'll kind of start going clockwise at the top. Consistent leadership presence. It's one of the first things that many parents talk about when they come, in my experience in Memphis, in my experience when I moved back here and canvassing and working in the community a year before actually opening in Hallville. At my previous school, we didn't see school leadership. At my previous school, when I did see school leadership, it was when someone was in trouble. We really prioritize school-wide systems, so arrival, dismissal, lunch, recess, restroom breaks. You'll see leadership presence to help, one, model and also reinforce expectations. Secondly, as we know as educators, if we can give teachers 5 minutes back during a transition between science going into math for manipulatives, it also empowers teachers to have a little more time and know that leadership is there supporting them. Everything is earned. Anecdote I would say is when I was in Memphis, there was a student, and the year before Freedom Prep came in as the operator, every Friday students could come in jeans. It didn't matter if I was a student who was getting in trouble. It didn't matter if I was a student who consistently always made great decisions. On Friday, he knew that every Friday we could come in with jeans. At the school I was serving, and also as a part of our culture system here, we have jeans on Fridays, but it's for students that have earned the opportunity to come to school on that Friday to be out of uniform and jeans. So what I'm trying to highlight there is that everything is earned, and we're really trying to develop the skills, the mindsets in our students that you have to work really, really hard to get to be afforded different opportunities. Weekly teaching professional development. We really, really believe that obviously the most important person in the building outside of our students and obviously their families are the teachers that are in class each day. And we work really, really hard to ensure that we're equipping and inspiring teachers on a consistent basis each Friday. That can look like looking at student data from an exit ticket, creating interventions and plans to reteach a lesson. That can look like respecting teachers and just giving them time to prepare for students, but we invest in that each week with teachers. 0 expulsions to date. Before going into Allegiant Prep, even at the previous school where we served over 800 students during my time leading there, we didn't have any expulsions. We haven't had any expulsions here, and I would say that's due to having a really, really strong culture around purpose over power. So it's not telling students, you need to do this because I told you to do this. Everything, even if it's in kindergarten or first grade language, has a why behind it. There's clarity, there's consistency, and there's predictability. And for those students that, hey, I'm not really getting it, I'm not really latching on right away, right? We really, really work hard to differentiate so that families know we're not trying to push your children out. We want your child to be here and we want to serve them regardless of what challenges they may have. School-wide norm student behavior system. They say it's the Michael Jordan effect or the superhero effect. Once that person leaves the building, does everything leave with them? So we really, really have normed from classroom to classroom, even in language. If a student gets a demerit, that's a clip down, we always say you can earn it back. It's an affirmation to even let a student know that, hey, you did something wrong, but we want to support you, even in our language, around encouraging you in class. cognitively guided math instruction. My voice went up some because in the way math is taught now, it's not just rote and computation. It's really understanding for students. There's a conceptual understanding. So 32 actually means 3 10s and 2 1s, right? And it's kind of building that base 5, base 10 with students through story problems that then leads the upper academy into multiplication, division, fractions, etc. That, I believe, is it for that one. Ultimately, why innovation? I'll start actually from the bottom and work up. We are currently located in the 46222 zip code, which is in the IPS school district. As we continue to grow, as we continue to get more momentum, the word is getting out more about the school with our families primarily that have been the vehicle of communicating about the experience they've had. For me, it makes logical sense to try to explore how we can partner with IPS, being that the majority of our students currently would be attending a IPS school. Secondly, we're a college preparatory option for IPS. I believe that I've established a pretty strong track record of leading within the context of the students that I serve here and also served in Memphis, Tennessee. And finally, sustainability. We really are, a smaller school, but within large and small, I think the priority with any school leader is to make sure that the dollars that we have are being used to directly impact students or to directly equip and develop teachers so that they can go in class and push students to their greatness. With that being said, in general, I think some of the economies of scale, some of the purchasing power potentially of partnering with a district like yours would allow us to continue to do that and even expedite doing that more with our students, our families, and also our staff. With that being said, I will pause to see if there are any questions.
Commissioner Collins first.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm curious to know, since you're a slow growth school, then how many students do you have now, and what do you project your numbers would be in K-8?
Definitely. So right now we currently have 71 students in K through 2. At full scale per our charter application, by 2025, I believe it was around 500 students. I believe that it'll be a little bit less than the 500 that we projected before the school opened, kind of making it more year by year. Next year, we essentially are planning to grow to about 120 students. So the goal is to get close to essentially doubling each year as we add a grade. Last year, we got into our facility probably 2 months before school started. It's hard to talk to a family when they say, where do I drop my child off? And we say, hey, we have a lot of aspirations and ambitions, but we don't have a building yet. So we actually opened with 34 students last year, and we grew this year to about 71. We're confident now, based on some of the partnerships we have with early child care education centers, churches, and also our families that have really been out kind of promoting the school, that we'll meet our goal next year and then kind of continue to grow on that trajectory until we reach a full K through 8.
Are you still in the building off of 10th Street?
Yes, ma'am. It's
Yes, and will you be able to stay in that building?
not until a full K through 8. We'll be able to stay in that building. We would be able to stay in that building with a full K through 8 with adding modulars, and there would be a lot of modulars. We have a 4-year agreement with them. We are now going on to year 3 with the option to extend. By year 3, we will add modulars, which will give us additional space. So I would say probably 5 to 6 years at most with adding modulars at that specific location where we are right now.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Commissioner Arnold.
Where specifically are you located?
We're off 10th and Concord, so 3125 Concord Court. If you're coming down 10th Street and you pass some probably major landmarks, I believe like the Crystal Moore House, we're a few blocks over. The Kroger's on West Michigan Street. If you're going towards Speedway, you're coming down Michigan, and then you pass Crystal Moore House and a few other streets, and then you would turn right onto Concord, and you would run right into us on the left. We're inside of the Indianapolis Housing Agency's Community Center.
In there, okay. And can you tell me a little bit about your board? One of the things that this board has shown an interest is having local members on boards and parents and other stakeholders involved. So talk a little bit about the composition of your board.
Yes, everyone on our board is actually from Indianapolis or around the area. In terms of composition, we have 2 educators. We have an individual with a finance background, an individual with a law background, also an individual that has, I would say, more of community engagement as his background. We have, out of the 7 board members, the majority identify as Black or brown. We have 2 women, and the other 5 are males. We do not have a parent that is on the board, but we ensure that parents have voice amongst our board, and our vehicle at the school is our parent kind of committee, action committee that works on behalf of the school and supporting and providing ideas and providing feedback, and also in the instance where interfacing with the board is necessary, or if one would want to, they know that that's the vehicle in which to do that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gore?
Good evening, and
Good
thank
evening.
you for coming.
Thank you.
There may be 2 questions I'd like to ask. One is, I noticed you said you had 71 students. Where are they coming from, and how do they get to your school at this time?
Yes, so about over 90% of them actually live in 46222, the zip code. So they would be zoned to, IPS schools that would be in that area. We have a few that, because we border and we're really close to Wayne Township, so we have a few that are zoned to Wayne Township. And then we have 1 or 2 that actually are zoned to Pike. In terms of, I don't have exact percentages, but the majority of our students are dropped off by car riders each day. We have a small population because strategically we live within the Indianapolis Housing Agency single unit homes. So we have families that are able to walk from the Indianapolis Housing Agency units, and the other percentage I would say are churches and child care centers that are in the area that pick up and drop off each day currently.
And currently now you're K through?
K through 2nd.
You're K through 2?
Yes.
Okay, and I noticed that on your chart you said 0 expulsions. How many suspensions?
3. We've had, to date, we've had 7 individual students from our first year to now that have actually been suspended. I think collectively in terms of days, between 15 to 18, but 7 individual students from the beginning of the, this is the 1920, the 18-19 school year to the midpoint in this school year.
And what is your diversity, both staff and students?
We have about over 93% free and reduced lunch, about over 90% Black, small kind of growing segment of Latina and Latino, and then I think we have a few students that are white. And the first question, I'm sorry, before that?
Well,
staff.
students as well as staff.
Staff.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have 9 staff altogether, including myself. Out of the 9, the percentage, 1, 2, about 50-50. So in terms of African American, we have 3 out of 9. In terms of Latino, we have 1, so that would be 3, 4, 5, including myself, and then the other half of our staff are white women.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. It's nice to see you. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with you many moons ago, and so it's great to see you again. And
thank you.
I know it can be complex, living in a space that you're going to grow out of. So I just want to encourage you to keep grinding and keep doing what you're doing. It's great to see you.
Thank you.
Actually, to see the program to be in the position it is right now. I would say that going forward, I guess if I were to interact or meet a parent, how would they describe your school?
Definitely. They would describe the school as a place where they know that their students are being held to high expectations, but they know that their students are being supported. They know that their students, and what I mean by that, sometimes And kind of to that point, and this was in Memphis when I served a school with 500 or 600 students, and also in Indianapolis where we had 30 and then we had 70. We made it a point to meet with each individual family or a group of small individual families before the school year starts to essentially go over the mission and vision, to ask them, why they're interested in bringing their student and child. And one of the biggest things I think that parents always say is that at the school, it doesn't matter who the individual is in the building. They can tell during arrival, during dismissal, if they come in and eat lunch, they can tell that students are compliant, but they're not robots, they're not machines. They're still staff that want to infuse and push voice and to push the personality of their child isn't being suppressed. That's one thing that comes out. I think the other thing, it sounds very basic, but safety. A lot of times families come and they have war stories from previous schools or even their experience at a school as a child, and just knowing that their child is safe and knowing that when the child comes home, one of the biggest differences, my child at the previous school, I would ask, what did they do during the day? And unfortunately, bullying, what happened at recess? Someone took this in class, this or that happened. My child came home today and talked about the story problem they did. My child came home today and talked about reading mastery and talked about the J factors they learned today. So I think kind of going back to what students tell parents each day can really be enlightening, specifically if they haven't heard positive comments or comments about learning, in other experiences. So I'd say that's what an average parent would tell you, and probably also tell you that I'm crazy because they see me a lot more than I guess your traditional leader would be, whereas the first kind of touch point maybe with someone suspended or someone's in trouble, right, in a leadership role, and I think it's refreshing to see that there's positivity on the front end versus kind of consequence or reinforcing conversations.
Appreciate that. One last question, I guess, is you mentioned 71 students, 9
Yes, sir.
Personnel or staff, teachers.
Mhm.
I heard IHA, I heard Christamore.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a village and a community to wrap around a school. So who are some of the strategic partners that are in place?
Yeah, I would say Pride Academy is a really large early child care education center further down West 16th. They have a few other locations. Charity Child Care is one of the largest level 4s in the 46222 zip code. It's funny, the kind of going back to earning credibility and building relationships and rapport with people. The directors there kind of, we laughed about it, but it ignored me for a while, right? Because who's this crazy guy that doesn't have a school? And ultimately, through testimonies of the first student that we had that was there in year 1, the parent coming back and talking about the experience, they reached out to me, and now we have about 10 students from that program, and they actually let me use their transportation each day to drop off and pick up students. So I'd say specifically with early child care education centers, we've done really well. First Samuel Baptist, First Christian Missionary that's off West 16, so some smaller churches as well. We've definitely partnered with, and another partnership more in the informal space. There's a gentleman who homelessness, and as you know, families that I have a house and I lose my house. We actually partnered with him kind of as a pilot program, and one of our families that was struggling with homelessness is actually going to be moving into a rehabbed house a few houses down from the school right after Christmas, based on working with this gentleman to provide housing. I'd say the last thing in terms of partnerships, the Girl Scouts is an organization we partner with, and then the actual Indianapolis Housing Agency has a residential council for the individuals that live amongst or in the units. We've partnered with them and had back to school events. We've partnered with them and had community events for the actual families that live in IHA, regardless if they're of age to go to the school or not. So just really making ourselves present and accessible to try to partner for our students and families.
Commissioner Sly.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for being here tonight. I appreciate that. You talked about IHA. How many of your students come from IHA?
Currently, right now, we have, and it's kind of a growing number because I think to date right now we have about 6 students. They're doing a major reconstruction, rehabbing of those IHA units. So they have a lot of families that are actually moving in. Just yesterday, I met with a new family that moved in, and they specifically give our literature out to new families that are moving in. So I believe we have 5 right now, going on to 6. Last year we had 1. So essentially, as kind of the same with charity childcare, as people have seen us and seen the work that we're doing, that gives you a little more assurance, right? To say, hey, you know, I'll send your child there. One specific anecdote, the office manager that works on that side was a grandmother and met with me 2 years ago and was very interested for her grandson. And her grandson had attended another school, and unfortunately, the parents didn't really enjoy the experience there. And it took 2 years, but finally the young man started this year in first grade, and has made tremendous growth academically and also socially. So there's kind of the individual examples, and also as IHA as a whole, as they have new families coming in, they're strategically providing our literature to families to hopefully enroll more students.
Thank you. And so you talked about your percentile in growth. What about proficiency? What is the proficiency scores?
Yes. So currently we had 4. So we're using the STEP assessment and we're using the MAP assessment. I'm not sure with the STEP assessment how familiar you are with that, but it's a reading diagnostic assessment that essentially gives you information specifically on what students do and don't know. At the beginning of last year, in terms of pre-reading, we only had 1 student at the beginning of kindergarten that was able to pass pre-reading. By the end of the year, about 60% of students had accomplished a year worth of growth on STEP. But with that being said, many of them still, in terms of mastery and proficiency, still were a few years behind. Ultimately, we look at it like a race, not a marathon. So as students come in and they may be multiple grade levels behind, specifically as they come in at first or second or third, our goal is that by 3rd grade, students are proficient on the iLearn exam, which means a chain of quality instruction from year to year. So if a student comes into 1st grade and is 3 years behind, which we have students like that, if we accomplish a year and a half worth of growth and continue to expedite that growth by 3rd grade, our goal is that we will really, really be able to show strong outcomes in terms of proficiency. To date, right now, we just finished up our MAP assessment, our winter round, and we have some really good comparative data from the first round to the winter that I think by the end of the year will really, really show our goals that our students are in the 50th quartile or above in terms of growth with MAP. And I think we're going to have a lot of those students that are going to be able to meet that goal by the end of the year. So some of the empirical data being in our 1st and 2nd year and with the slow growth model, it's not as legitimate as like state outcome and test scores, but we do have some promising data coming out of our 1st year and definitely kind of in this year, working towards the end of the school year.
And how many years of experience do you have? I know you talked about 2014 and 15 year.
Yes.
And then 2015 and 16 year. But those 800 students in that total,
yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So how many years?
So I guess I'm getting old. 10 years in total in education as a classroom teacher and as a school leader. And then that would be, I'm going into my 3rd year now here in Indianapolis.
And your position in Memphis was?
I was the head of school first off at Freedom Preparatory Academy, which was a 6th through 8 middle school in the Westwood neighborhood. And after that year, essentially the school started to grow and they went into a partnership with the state, which was the Achievement School District, a school that was in the bottom 5% of the state that was in the neighborhood. And I moved from first I was the dean of students, then I was the principal, and then I moved to the principal of the turnaround school based on my experience in classroom experience as an elementary teacher. That was my last year there, and that was a K through 5 that served a little over 500 students.
All right, thank you. I think the last thing I wanted to ask was you're talking about the board. And when you're talking about the board, do you guys have minutes already posted on your
Yes,
website?
on our website, yes.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate your
welcome.
time.
Any further questions? You're all very thorough. Everybody asked questions I had made note to ask. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Hope Academy.
Thank you, Superintendent Johnson and the Indianapolis Public School Board of Commissioners for allowing us to come present to you tonight about a very unique niche school. My name is Rochelle Gardner, and I have the pleasure of being the co-founder and Chief Operating Officer for Hope Academy. We are seeking a potential innovation partnership with, charter partnership with the Indianapolis Public Schools for this school year of 2020 and 2021. A little bit about me. So I have been working with adolescents with substance use disorder for over 30 years and came from a long line of teachers and always thought I would never end up in education and I was going to do something different. And I found myself running a school. So I get a lot of flack at family dinners about that. But this school is really about students who are struggling with substance use disorder and their academics. And Mrs. Gaggy, I'm going to turn over to her in a minute, will talk to you about the two different platforms.
So thank you, Superintendent Johnson and Commissioners. My name is Linda Gaggy. This is my 34th year in education. I have been in Hope Academy for 6 years, and prior to that I was with IPS for 28 years as a teacher and administrator, so I appreciate seeing some familiar faces up here. I love what I do. I've been the principal at Hope, the instructional leader, and kind of take on all of the academic sides of things at Hope Academy and work just in concert with Rochelle to make sure that we have all of our areas covered to support our students and our families.
Button has it. Oh, there we go. So starting Hope Academy about 14 years ago, we knew that there was a gap in services for adolescents that leave treatment and return to their high schools. A national statistic is about 85% of students who return to their home schools after treatment return to use within 90 days. And our students report to us that returning to their home school after treatment within 24 hours have been offered some sort of substance. So in order to fill the gap, we became a mayor's authorized charter school in 2006, and we've served over 700 kids at Hope Academy during that time. We are a nationally recognized recovery school and part of a larger association of about 40 recovery schools across the country. We're the only one here in Indianapolis. So our mission at Hope Academy is to provide a safe, sober, restorative, and challenging school experience for high school students recovering from alcoholism or drug addiction who have made a commitment to their personal recovery, have a desire to learn, want to attain a high school diploma, and are willing to be an active part of a school community of like-minded students and faculty.
So I'm going to go over just some of our results to date. So our students, when they come to us, often are 1 year, 2 years behind in credits and academic achievement. And we're very proud of the fact that we're able to get them back on track, get them earning their credits in the classroom, and move them closer to graduation, if not graduating from Hope Academy. Many of our students, once they reach us, find that the educational environment and the support that they receive in academics and in their recovery is something that is they grab onto and stay with us until their graduation. So the other piece, we are one of 7 schools in the nation that are accredited through the Association of Recovery Schools. There are about 40 recovery schools across the nation. We are the only one in the state of Indiana and the only one in the Midwest. So our accreditation comes through their national board of the Association of Recovery Schools. That includes high schools as well as some university campuses. So we're very We're very held to a lot of different accountability metrics, and we're okay with that. We report to the Association of Recovery Schools. We report to our school board. We report to the mayor's office, who who sponsors our charter, as well as to the state of Indiana State of Education. Sorry, the school board and the state of education. So we report all of our metrics just like every other public school does, and we're very proud of the achievements that our students have made. When our students are with us, it makes sense that as their sobriety increases, that their academics would increase. It makes sense, but Hope Academy leads the nation in data collection and sharing of that data for recovery schools and students that have substance use disorder. So our students, when they're with us, their academics go up, their transcripts go up, as well as an increase in their grade point average. As well as that, our attendance rate, while it's not where we would love it to be at 94%, for a lot of our students, this is the first time in a high school setting that they've engaged in a school and are coming to school and are being successful. So while we continue to work on that, it's a much higher rate than a lot of our kids are exhibiting at the previous schools that they have attended. And then our graduation rate as well is 87% for last year. That fluctuates. We kind of ebb and flow with some of our students. Last year, we graduated 14 really strong students, both in academics and in recovery. So we had a good graduation rate for our students. Okay. So I'm not going to read through all of that. I'm just going to kind of explain, because we're kind of a niche school. We run a dual platform. So we focus on academic rigor with our students, and we focus on the recovery side. We have an academic team, we have a recovery team, we meet once a week. We go through every single student and we identify where are their strengths, where are the needs, where are the supports, what do we need to do, what are our next steps in order to move them towards that graduation and post-secondary experience. We're very small, so we have anywhere from 35 to 45 students at any given time. Our instructional delivery is direct instruction. Our students do not do well online. They are relational, and they need to have teachers in the classroom. As students are continuing to work a recovery program, the part of the brain that re-engages first is the visual. And for our students, it's really important that teachers are in the classroom directing that instruction, not only with the standards-based curriculum, but tying that cross-curricularly with other classrooms and other experiences. We focus on restorative discipline. That is a change for our students. They're used to being in school and either they get caught with a substance or they're under the influence, or they're in the back of the classroom and nothing's happening because they're high, quite frankly, in the classroom. And so they're used to, okay, that's it, you're out, you're suspended. We focus on restorative. So we talk to our kids about what does that mean? How do we repair this? How do we fix this? How do we make this better? How do we put strategies and supports around you in order to help you to be successful?
So, why innovation? Starting Hope Academy 14 years ago, it was always our intent to serve the larger community. We knew that being located where we were was where we needed to be at the time. We now know that in order to serve the bigger community, because of other barriers, we need to be relocated. In some respects, we do serve a larger community. We served over 30 different high schools last year. But there are barriers by where we are currently located. And so we want to be more of a resource for all students, for all backgrounds. We know addiction crosses every social economic, every race, every gender. We know that, and we want to be able to be more of a resource for schools and families and students that maybe can't get to a treatment provider or whatever those barriers are, we want to be able to be there for them. And so by relocating in the Indianapolis public school boundaries, we feel like a partnership with the Indianapolis public schools will allow us to reach really more the entire Indianapolis population. When we started discussing possibilities of becoming an innovation school, we discovered that in having conversations with multiple IPS guidance counselors, expulsion officers, social workers, that they have lots of kids struggling with substance use disorder. They can't figure out how to get them a pathway to some sort of successful program. Very excited about us kind of relocating downtown or in their district so that they can be able to use us. We are an approved, we did get our charter approved. We're going for a new charter this year. Back in January of this year, our school board with the Board of Fairbanks had decided to split the partnership for multiple reasons, but really one of the benefits for us is that we can relocate more centrally, be more of access to students, and really focus on the dual platform that we have of education and recovery. So we received our charter from the mayor, and we're currently still looking for facilities and working with IPS and a broker to find us a strong facility that we can grow in. As Linda mentioned, our capacity in the current space we're in is around 60. We finished the school last year with about 50 kids, and so we want to be able to grow that to a capacity of 75 or 80 kids for our school going forward. So we're excited to continue having conversations about becoming an IPS Innovation School, and we thank you for allowing us to come here tonight.
Real quick question. Your current location is in Washington Township, is it not?
It's in Lawrence Township.
Lawrence Township, thank you. Commissioner Gore.
Thank you very much for being here. Knowing that you're in Lawrence Township, is that correct? Do you not serve the schools there, and why are you finding it more important just to be in the IPS area at this time? Is it no students or what?
So great question. So in any given school year, we service an average of 35 different school districts in and around the Indianapolis area. So they come to us from Center Township, the Donut Townships, and then all around. We try to remove as many barriers as we can to students getting to us. So we do offer limited transportation. We have a bus that runs the 465 loop and has 3 stops on the east, west, and south side, and then a bus that runs the north side. So we're really trying to get kids to us because we know they're out there. But the problem with the location that we're at is that I think as we're tied to Fairbanks Hospital, which is a treatment facility, a lot of people have the misunderstanding that you have to go through Fairbanks or you have to be in treatment in order to be at our school. And that's not true. We're independent. And so we really want to push a little further into the city so that we can capture more students that we know that are out there that have need of our school.
I just want clarification. So are we just saying that you don't have enough students in the Lawrence Township area? You would get more in the inner city, in the urban Indianapolis?
So one of the issues with our school is why do people seek a recovery high school? You have to be, when you're dealing with a disease like mental illness or addiction, there's stigma attached to that. And so there's a lot of stigma in different places with parents, with school districts, with just the community at large of when is the right time for my child to seek something like this. And so as we get students from Lawrence Township, but we get students from all over. We get students from Greenwood and Anderson and Hamilton County, and we get them from everywhere. We don't need a large mass of students because our school's not fit for every student that has a substance use issue, right? Because we have great prevention programs. There's a subset, if you think of the prevention continuum, there's a subset of kids that just haven't been able to figure it out, and their academics are being really challenged, and they're continuing to use, and then bad things happen. They get kicked out of school, or they end up in treatment or jail or those kinds of things. Those are the kind of students, the population of students we're looking for. So we don't have one township that is necessarily feeding all of those kids to us. It's 1 and 2s from multiple different townships.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Thank you. I guess I want to first say that, you know, the mission and the work that you do is incredibly noble, so thank you again for being here tonight. I heard you mention a bus, north side bus, a east, west, south side bus. You were partnered with Fairbanks in Fairbanks's proper, I guess that's up kind of in that community north quadrant, right? Now you're in Lawrence. I guess I'm just trying to understand sort of how the business model works. I know you're searching for a home, a new home, that probably plays into that. But I heard about 31 or 30, potentially 50 students that you ended up with through your program at the end of school year last year. And clearly you've been at this for 14 years, so there is a business model. So maybe you could unpack that a little bit, how it works.
Well, you know, we get funding, like every school gets funding through the state. We also have an appropriation in the state budget. But we do have a strong philanthropy arm of our board. And we raise about $300,000 a year. But with those capacities, you know, we can make it work. Certainly, as enrollment goes up, it makes it a little easier. And we also want to be able to attract all students that need us. And so, being located, as you said, up on the Fairbanks campus, it's kind of way out of the. It's hard for public transportation to get to us, although we do have students that have take public transportation, but that becomes a barrier. And so as we're looking for facilities that will allow easier access for public transportation, as well as the bus service that we currently provide.
Commissioner Slack?
Thank you two ladies for being here tonight. I also think that this work that you're doing is noble, it's awesome, and I think that our kids do need it. However, I'm kind of struggling with the fact that why not a program? Why a innovation? Why a charter? Can you explain that to me? And why IPS?
Well, okay, let me answer the why IPS first. You know, as I said, we see ourselves as partners for everybody, every school district. We see ourselves as being able to help IPS with their students that they're struggling with that are on the way to suspension or expulsion. It would be really great for our students and their families if we could deal with the substance abuse before it gets to an expulsion or another suspension. And so really helping school districts find that pathway. And one of the school districts is IPS. Why a charter and not a program? Well, we have a history of a charter school. We have a history of running a nationally recognized school. I think programs, as they're needed, don't necessarily deal with both the academic rigor and the recovery kind of intensive recovery supports that our students that we know work and what they need. I think we have a long history of being able to provide that for our community and for our students at large. So as we made the decision to go for a new charter, and we'll be starting, you know, a new school, basically, same model, just a new 501c3. We'll be able to, I think, capture more of what we do as a school versus just being seen more as a program. The other thing is thinking of treatment as well. You know, it's hard for students to, and this is a national issue, of students to really go out and seek treatment for lots of different reasons. But the trend is allowing our students to get farther and farther into substance abuse before we're willing to kind of draw that line, and whether that's a parent's decision, a school's decision, a judge's decision. So by having a school that is, you know, really seen as a place where they can get both of those components, I think is really key for our community.
And for clarification, are you saying that you don't have a building right now?
Well, we're currently in a building because we're currently running the school, and we're looking for a facility that's obviously within the IPS boundaries. And no, we don't have anything nailed down yet.
Okay, and as far as your diversity goes, And also, I guess I want to know the diversity of the staff, the students. Then I guess I want to know on the flip side, the mentors. Do you have people coming in from AA to talk to these students?
Sure. So as far as student diversity, we currently have about 30% of our students that are Black and Brown students. For us, we work to get more diversity in our school with our students. It's never really an issue of access to the education part. It's an issue of access to treatment for students. So we work on that. We have a person that goes out and does actual recruiting with the court systems, with the DCS, with other school districts in and around Marion County. So yes. As far as the staff, we look at our diversity with staff in two different ways. One with ethnicity, and we have one staff member that is Latino. The rest are all Caucasian. But we also look at our diversity amongst our staff, and we want staff in front of our students who understand our students and their pathway. It's one of the biggest wins for us with our students and our staff, because the students know that some of the staff and all of the students have been on the same path of the road to recovery. So they understand the journey, they understand the pitfalls and those things that are affecting them in their recovery and their pathway. In terms of mentors, so part of our recovery requirements is that our students go out to at least 2 meetings a week. So AA, NA, All Recovery, Smart Recovery, some kind of a meeting that they go out into the community, because recovery is a lifelong challenge. So we want them to be able to connect with a greater recovery community in their area, so that when they leave us, they still have those supports in place. So along with going to meetings, they're also required to have a mentor or a sponsor that they're also working with, again, to get them connected as they transition from Hope Academy. So we also offer a meeting at school. So we have a young people's meeting that meets one day after school, and it's typically just our students, but it is open to other students. But it's at that meeting that our recovery coach is a person in long-term recovery and a young person, and also an alumni of Hope Academy. And so she is great at connecting with the younger population in recovery. And so they come to the meeting after school on Thursdays with our kids also. And some of them serve as the mentors or the sponsors as well.
Last 2 questions, and I'll let you go. How long have you been here in the state of Indiana? And then how do you track your success?
Me personally, how long have I been here?
No.
The school.
No, the school. No. The school.
14 years. So this is our 14th year. And so we track our success. We collect data around, we take NWEA. We collect data around our credit completion, our attendance. We collect data around, we do some nationally normed data, the GAIN assessment and the DAP assessment, which kind of, we take that in conjunction with our NWEA testing, so that we are getting a handle on not just how they're doing testing wise, but how their sobriety is affecting testing and how their academics are affecting their sobriety.
That's more what I'm talking about. How do you track your recovery success?
Mm-hmm. So students, so weekly we have a recovery team meeting, and we talk about every student, and the recovery coach talks about the number of days the students have that are clean and sober. Students report that in a community circle once a week. We do drug screens as well, and so that's another way for us to gauge how they're doing, and always with parent communication and involvement, so that they understand, where the needs are for other supports outside of school. And then the DAP and the GAIN, I'll let you explain that, how that ties to that.
Well, the GAIN is a global assessment of their addiction index. So it measures their internal and external controls on how they manage their behaviors. So not only their drug use, but also their mental health. And what we've found is that as they stop using, their mental health comes up to the top. And so we nationally have been able to have that conversation because we do collect the data, and we're able to kind of normalize that and figure out how to deal with that. The DAP is the developmental assets profile that we use to really focus on what are the kids needing from recovery. What is recovery going to do to help with their developmental assets, and how we can encourage that throughout the course and the time they're here. What I would say about the recovery data too is a lot of people ask us nationally, well, what's your relapse rate? Well, addiction is a chronic disease, and no one seems it's a chronic disease. So what an adolescent addiction or recovery looks like is kind of like a really rough roller coaster with always the goal getting to sobriety. Our goal with our recovery coaches is to lengthen the time of sobriety and decrease the time or the intensity of the relapse. So instead of it being a week-long binge, if that's what happens, it's a one-time use and they report and we figure that out. We do a process called unpackings with our students. So we sit down with them and we talk about what was happening and really getting them to identify where their gaps were in their recovery program and what we can do to help them identify opportunities to change those gaps.
Or triggers too, right?
Triggers too, absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Commissioner Arnold.
I too want to applaud your mission and the work you do. I think it's very valuable. I know personally lots of young people that have had their academic journey interrupted and because of addiction issues. So very much needed. I just have a couple of very tangible questions. How do the students you have, how do they get to you? Do they come from treatment and are referred? Talk about how students end up at your school.
Sure. So we have about 4 categories of referrals. So they come to us via parents searching the web. My student got kicked out of school for drugs and alcohol. We pop up. Probation, Department of Child Services is a big referral. Other treatment providers, absolutely, are a key for us, and school districts. And one of the key initiatives this year has been with the school districts, as I said, was to really help them identify a student on that second suspension or that third suspension before they get to an expulsion. We will take them as expelled students as long as the expulsion was a drug and alcohol related issue. But the length of time and their substance abuse has grown, and so the problem is a little more deeper than if we would have caught it earlier. So those are probably our key referral sources, and word of mouth by parents.
Next question is, do they come and stay? Walk me through, and maybe a child is a sophomore and the issue presents, can they start then? Do they stay until they graduate? Do they leave the program once they've made X amount of progress?
So there's kind of 2 pathways that happen. So most of our students come to us as juniors. And that has to do with the treatment trend, that kids really aren't getting identified with a substance use disorder until around age 16. It used to be earlier than that, like 13 or 14, and now it's increased, and there's lots of reasons behind that. But so they're not really getting identified with substance abuse until they come to us, but they're really sophomore credit wise. They can stay with us till they graduate. We've had 2 or 3 kids that came as freshmen and graduated, after 4 years. If they're really connected to recovery, that's what happens. And they're connected to the culture and the community of staff and students. But we also have students that pick up recovery really well. Their academics are going really well. They feel strong enough. They may have a supportive home, school environment, or they feel supported in the home school environment that they return to. And that's also a success for us because they were failing before they came to us. Now they're strong enough to go on and continue on and graduate.
So they're not obligated to come and stay
No.
the duration?
No.
But they can?
But they can't. We like for them to stay at least a semester so that we can manage both their academics and maybe get them some credits while we're also monitoring and helping them with their recovery.
Well, and I'm sensitive to what you said, that often if they return back, even after treatment or whatever, they're more susceptible to...
Returning to use, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Collins.
Thank you. You've answered many of my questions that I had. And I think this would be I think it is I appreciate the worthwhile efforts that you have done and for the community and supporting young people in possibly escaping from addictions and having a productive life. What happens to kids once they leave school? Do you have some kind of support system for when they go home or back into the community that led to their addiction to begin with?
So,
I mean, on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So we do have a after-school program, and we've had that for as long as about 5 years, as long as Linda had. We've had it off and on, but really strong. We just launched almost a year ago, what's called an alternative peer group, and it's an evidence-based model after-school program out of Texas, where kids can stay connected with their family and learning life skills after school. The schools in Texas are the recovery schools in Texas are very impacted by having a place where their kids can be from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m., right? They're in school or they're in the recovery support. So we launched that program back almost a year ago, and most of our kids use that. For like example, over the break, this Christmas break, we're providing somebody at the school every day but Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And they're doing things like, I think they're going laser tagging tomorrow and the movies, and they can come just hang out. We have a fun space for them just to be there. But we know that the time of use is between 3 and 7, right? They leave school, parents don't get home until then. So it's critical for us to keep them involved. And I think it'll be a benefit if we're more centrally located, because it's hard for parents to then go have to pick them up, because we don't provide bus service if they choose that program yet. So it'll be more centrally located and people will be able to use it.
Thank you very much.
I just want to concur with everybody else. Thank you for the service you provide. I'd heard about the separation with Fairbanks. The service, what little I know about addiction is sort of the brain chemistry of somebody younger than 25 is dramatically different than somebody older than 25, and the beyond the educational services, the treatment services differ greatly among that age population. So I applaud you for the work you're doing, and thanks for taking the time to be with us this evening.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Johnson, Board of Commissioners, Executive Leadership Team. It's an honor to be here and present to you this evening. I am Dr. Tanika Holden Flynn, founding head of school for Heron Preparatory Academy. I have 15 years of experience in the field of education and have served as a school leader for elementary, middle, and high schools. Throughout my career, I have focused on improving struggling schools, most recently serving as principal of George Buck Elementary School from July 2017 through July 2019. During my tenure, I focused on the development of school culture by modeling clear expectations for students and staff. I made academic growth a priority by implementing weekly professional learning communities. These efforts led to a 10% decrease in suspension, an increase in ELA growth from 59 to 70 points, a significant increase in math growth from 58 to 111 points, and an overall 16-point increase on our state report card. During my time at George Buck, I was also able to retain 70% of staff while increasing staff diversity, moving African Americans from 30 to 60%, Hispanics from 2 to 6, and males from 3 to 18. I've also led school turnaround efforts in the District of Columbia, specifically at Tree of Life Community Public Charter School, increasing the school's elementary and secondary education classification Act category from priority to rising in one school year. Presenting with me this evening is our amazing Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Mr. Sean Henselai.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present with you this evening. A little bit about myself. I came to Indianapolis in 2002 and was a student at Butler University. I've been in Indianapolis since then, starting my educational career in Lawrence Township, where I served for 9 years as both a teacher and then an instructional coach. During that time, as an instructional coach, I worked with fellow coaches to implement a system across the district of guidebooks and common assessments that allowed us to compare across not only classes but across schools and help all schools get better. And then after my 9 years in Lawrence Township, I served in Hamilton Southeastern for 3 years as an instructional coach and a assistant principal in an elementary school. And currently, this is my second year at Heron and Riverside High Schools as Director of Academic Accountability.
Our mission. Indianapolis Classical Schools is a community of scholars that advances timeless ideas and content, builds a culture of respect and trust, and engages in an urban environment in order to prepare our students to become world-class citizens.
And our vision, Indianapolis Classical Schools, is founded on the belief that a classical liberal arts education, where students are steeped in great historical thought and invention, is the best preparation for a future life of leadership and service. Indianapolis Classical Schools emphasizes the classic art and literature of many cultures, presented through the lens of science, mathematics, and humanities. This unique approach to the organization of knowledge provides a means to integrate subjects and lead students on a journey through the earliest human history right up to modern examples of human creativity.
So what makes our program unique? What makes us unique is our commitment to the classical education model. There are 3 components that are instrumental in the effectiveness of classical education. They are known as trivium, which describes the learning stages of a child as they mature. The first stage is grammar. During this stage, students are naturally adept to memorizing through songs, chants, and rhymes. It is during this stage that we capitalize on students' natural curiosity to explore and turn that into a love for learning. The next stage is logic. This is normally most educators' least favorite stage. It is during this stage that students begin to question authority and facts. During this stage, students learn how to reason and debate. They apply their knowledge as they discern and evaluate, compare and contrast, and discover cause and effect relationships in any given subject. The final stage is rhetoric. During this stage, students have become independent thinkers and communicators. We develop these skills by continuing to focus on informational text and by guiding students to communicate, to inform, and persuade eloquently. We also use a workshop approach. With this approach, students will engage in a workshop model which emphasizes targeted teaching, shared practice, guided practice, and application of skills in context. Each day, students will have the opportunity to apply what they are learning through hands-on activities and independent practices. Students will learn how to have robust conversations with each other in which they discuss and analyze ideas and text. Students will study classical literature and participate in shared reading and recitation of classical texts. As a part of our commitment to liberal education, which includes a well-rounded study of subjects, students will also have the opportunity to have STEM classes and art classes each week. In our STEM classes, students will study the relation of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics through areas of focus such as robotics and construction. Additionally, students will participate in art and music each week. At Classical Schools, we are intentionally diverse. We are committed to creating a diverse community, which believes in the ability of all students to achieve at high levels. We believe in the power of welcoming all people and celebrating the qualities that make each of us unique. This is why we do have a focus on real languages. Starting in kindergarten, students will be able to participate in various related art classes, including global studies. The global studies class will include exploration of Spanish, French, and Latin. Students will begin learning these languages and will study the cultures and traditions of the countries which they are spoken and originated. Together, this creates a community of scholars which we are molding to become world-class citizens.
And so my apologies, when I was clicking a moment ago, I accidentally skipped the data slide. So if you don't mind, I'm going to jump back to that quickly. And so while we, as a new school launching in the fall, do not have data, as you know, we are part of Indianapolis Classical Schools, which currently consists of Heron High School and Riverside High School. And so we are being led by the same executive team that launched those schools. And we wanted to share some of the data from our network. So with the most recent ISTEP scores, our high schools were ranked first and third in the city. And for just to highlight something about remediation, we at our high schools do summer academy. It's something we're also planning to do in a form at the elementary schools. And this past summer, 189 students were able to recover 249 credits during summer academy. Just an example of the work we do there to make sure our students are continually catching up and progressing forward. An example of academic rigor, we had 545 students across both campuses, which is slightly less than half of our entire student body, participate in AP exams in the spring of 2019. And then increasing our diversity. This year, the ICS student body is 34% Black, 2% Asian, 12% Hispanic, and 45% white, and 7% multiracial. And we continue to see an increase in our diversity each year, especially now with Enroll Indy. That has been able to allow us to grow and become more diverse. And then finally, just a note on sparking interest. We currently have over 80 families that have joined our information listserv to get regular updates about the new school that's launching.
And why innovation? Well, innovation because, one, we believe in great schools. We are proud to currently be a part of the IPS portfolio of schools, and we are hopeful that our K-8 can also join that portfolio. We believe that school choice is important, and we think that the classical model is a great option and should be offered at all grade levels. We value diversity. We believe in diversity and that we learn from our differences. With our high schools, we have the opportunity to assist in determining our school boundaries to ensure that we had a diverse student body, and we are looking forward to having that same opportunity with our K-8. And also a reciprocal partnership. We don't have an us versus them mentality. We support ISPS and appreciate the partnership, and we are excited to expand our partnership and also to collaborate more, specifically with hiring as well as professional development. We appreciate your time and are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Arnold.
Where is your school going to be? Where's the physical location?
So we are very close to being able to announce a location. However, we cannot do that quite yet, but we are looking geographically between our two high schools, centrally located in between Heron and Riverside.
And how many do you anticipate that you'll start with?
So we would like to use a slow growth model. In our first year, we would like to open with students in grades kindergarten, first, and second, having 2 classes of each, about 20 students each class. So have about 120 students in the first year. Then the second year, we would like to add 6th grade to that as well as we continue to grow out. And then by our 4th year of operation to have approximately 740 students.
It'll be K-8.
Yes, K-8.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moore.
Good evening.
for being here. Thank you. I understand Heron, and for the parents who are out there might not understand the word classical. What does Heron Classical School mean? Why is it different than other schools, or is it?
So, in terms of being different than other schools, I mean, we definitely have an emphasis on classical literature. And as I was explaining, part of that classical model really is that trivium, which goes into the three components, which are grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And so, all of our curriculum and our work is really based off of those three components. So that is what makes us different than other schools.
And also, because it is Heron and you're going now K through 8, where are you going to get your students? What area are you looking to for students to be able to come to your Heron Preparatory Academy?
Right. So, as our charter states, we would be able to offer the school to basically anyone in the state of Indiana. However, we are really excited about focusing on students specifically in Indianapolis. Right now, as I said, we can't announce our location, but we would really like to focus on the 46205 and 46208 zip code, as well as also hoping that parents who have sent their kids to our high school will also send their children to our K through 8 as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Slack.
Thank you for being here.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. When you're talking about your increasing of numbers, did that take effect once you combined with Riverside High? Because I remember you coming to the board and we were talking about the numbers of students and the diversity in your number of students. Did that increase when we added Riverside?
You're talking about the diversity numbers that we talked about a few slides back?
Yes, ma'am.
So those numbers, that was combined with Riverside and Heron, correct? Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
so yes, the diversity did increase, but then also I'm pulling out another sheet we have here. So, but then I also have it broken out by high school, and this year Heron has the most diverse freshman class it has ever had, or at least since the launch. And so that freshman class at Heron specifically is 29.8% Black, 1.8% Asian, 15.6% Hispanic, 44.4% white, and 7.5% multiracial.
And Riverside is?
Riverside's incoming freshman class, just to give apples to apples, is 57.3% Black, 1.1% Asian, 13.5% Hispanic, 21.3% white, and 5.6% multiracial.
And then when you look at that in comparison to your teacher and your staff diversity, what does those numbers look like from
So-
both schools, Riverside and Heron?
So in terms of our staff diversity, if combining both schools, our diversity is probably about 10% overall diverse, right? And so when we're speaking of diversity, we're talking in terms of ethnicity and race, right? So currently, our founder and president has made it clear that that is something that we have to tackle. And so as we are creating this elementary, this K through 8, that is something that we really are focusing on, ensuring that we have a more diverse staff. As we continue to talk about how we value diversity, we can't just value it in terms of our student body. We also have to make sure from the top down that our organization represents that. So we are working on that.
Okay, moving on. So I guess my question would be for you, what are you seeking from IPS and why IPS? Since IPS already currently has a STEM program, K through 8, with Cold Springs, we already currently have workshop approach almost, with CFIs, world languages, global prep, CFIs. I mean, why IPS?
So it's my understanding that IPS does not have a classical model, though, currently for K through 8. And so that is something that we believe is definitely very beneficial. And then in terms of why IPS, so as our current partnerships have been very successful, we are excited to be able to continue that. And so when you look at a classical model of education, it actually should really begin, as we talked about with the grammar phase, and go all the way up to rhetoric. So in order to implement it, we really need to have a K through 8 so that it can be successful all the way through. a comprehensive approach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to confirm, you currently have a charter,
So we currently have, yes,
a K-8 charter.
yes, it was,
Thank you.
yes.
Commissioner Slack?
I'm so sorry. I have one more question.
Yes.
In terms of your discipline and suspensions, could you tell us what those are? And could you tell me whether or not you have diversity on your suspensions? Are you telling me the person that leads the behavior model or the behavior specialist or dean, is that majority Caucasian, African American, Hispanic?
Okay. And so Mr. Henselai is gonna help me as we answer that question, but I believe, so in terms of our deans, there's one African-American, right, and the rest are Caucasian?
Correct.
And there are 2 other deans, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so 3 total, 1 African-American, 2 Caucasian. And in terms of our suspension data, it is not currently broken down by race, but so in terms of the report that we provided for the mayor's office for Q1, Heron High School, I believe, had 13 suspensions. Riverside had 15 suspensions. And so as a K-8, we do realize that suspension is not something that we want to utilize. We are really focused on making sure that we are teaching students appropriate behavior. And, you know, we don't plan on suspending students unless it is a severely egregious offense.
So you're saying that 13 from this year, is what you're saying? 13
Yes,
from
that
this
was
year,
for this year
and
for
15
Q1.
from Riverside?
Yes,
Okay.
that is
Thank
correct.
you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Johnson and IPS school commissioners. My name is Mayat Lands, and I'm the founding school leader for Rooted School at Eastern Star Church.
My name is Nancy Silvers Rogers, Executive Director of Ministries for Eastern Star Church.
And we are here this evening seeking a partnership with Indianapolis Public Schools as a charter partner. Rooted School seeks to provide students personal pathways to financial freedom by increasing their access to four-year colleges and universities and technical programs, preparing them to compete in the city's high-growth, high-wage industries. While our mission focuses on both the academic and social-emotional growth of our students, our overarching mission has the potential to transform an entire community by supplying homegrown talent to our region's fastest-growing companies, raising the median income of families, and improving their overall quality of life. We exist to see our students academically prepared and financially free. Some students will arrive at financial freedom with a college degree, others will not. Rooted's goal is that students will graduate with a job offer in one hand, college acceptance letter in the other. My results to date. I started my career in IPS as a science teacher and then a leader at Crispus Attucks High School. As a teacher, over 60% of my students passed the biology ECA as 8th graders, which was the highest in the district and above the state average. While at Attucks, I also led the school improvement team responsible for working with administrators and staff to improve the school's letter grade. From an academic standpoint, as a leader of a charter school team, I received the second highest growth scores in ELA in the state. And from a culture standpoint, as a leader, I decreased referrals by 70%, and on our mayor's office renewal, increased the score in each category from does not meet expectations to meet expectations. As a leader, I also led the efforts to increase our school grade from a C to B in 2018. As a certified facilitator in culture intelligence and unconscious bias, I led efforts that increased culturally competent teaching by utilizing the anti-bias framework and culturally responsive teaching as a basis for effective anti-bias education at every grade level. We understand that in order to be successful, we must work with our community to fulfill our mission, and that schools are just one part of the entity that makes up the community. Therefore, we will work with the community to provide high-quality education for all students. One way is through our community partnership with Eastern Star Church being the pillar and center of the partnership.
I'd like to spend a couple of minutes, probably don't have that much time though, right? I'll be brief. Our Rooted School is a part of our development, our community development in the Arlington Woods 46218 area, where we have our devotion, commitment to quality education there. When Rooted School came to Eastern Star Church, we were more than delighted to be able to provide a venue for them. We had the space, we certainly had the commitment, and now we see a continuum of education. And you'll hear us, if we're here with you anymore over the next couple of months, you'll hear us talk about this continuum of education. It's important to us that this particular area where our main campus is has what other areas have. They have quality education. We see that now. We have another partner, Day Early Learning, where we have small children. They're about to get infants. So these families can start there. Across the street from us, of course, we have IPS Arlington Woods School 99, and now we have Rooted School, which will be a 9 through 12 high school. When we talk about partnerships at Eastern Star Church, our Rock Initiative will always be the banner that we use to talk about where we want to go. One of the platforms for our Rock Initiative, our community development initiative, is education. And the only gap we see now, and we're working on that, is a middle school. And it's important because people can bring their kids one area, infants, preschool, elementary, high school, middle school, and then right up Massachusetts Avenue. We now have a partnership with Martin University, which means some people don't want necessarily an associate degree or even a 4-year degree, but certifications. So when we come and speak on behalf of partnerships, we just want the commissioners, this public, our community to know that we're in it for the long haul, and sustainability and consistency are hallmarks for us. We support what Rooted School is going to bring to that area. We couldn't be more delighted, and on behalf of our church, our congregation, the staff, we have strong commitment. We're willing to roll up our sleeves and make these metrics work as well as these results and outcomes. It is important, and those particular ideologies, the commitment again of what we see with these educators coming there couldn't line up better with what we're trying to do. It's serious business for us there, and we just want you guys to know that. And the network of education, we want it to be seamless. And so whatever we can do to help and support that, that's what we want. It is not a frivolous kind of initiative that we're getting in. We're very serious. And again, we're going to put our heart, we're going to put our resources and certainly our support behind what these schools are trying to get accomplished.
Other unique offerings that we have, our students also have the opportunity to participate in dual credit and dual enrollment with our 3 partner universities. Students not only receive state-approved, industry-recognized credentials, but they also have the opportunity to participate in internships with our 10+ industry partners. Essential to this partnership is also our Family Leadership Council, which provides families a way to connect with Rooted, support our initiatives, engage in activities that promote the school, and enrich their students' school's performance. There are many reasons why becoming a partner with IPS is important to us. First is the community engagement in relation to the Rock Initiative with Eastern Star Church. Second, we will offer 3 new credential tech pathways. When we think about the technical skills and soft skills needed for our students to be successful, it is important for us to backwards plan and start these skills early. It makes sense for us to be a part of the larger IPS academic learning community to understand where our students are and to collaborate on the academic level with schools who serve students who would possibly transition to our schools in the same way we are collaborating on the community level with Eastern Star Church. Third, we have a strong alignment to the district's strategic priority, racial equity mindset by strengthening and expanding the racial equity work to eliminate opportunity gaps. We understand the opportunity gap is real. The data shows that more significant, positive, and sustainable impact is needed to make sure our students succeed academically and that we eliminate barriers in the opportunity gap for the African American and low-income students. Rooted along with our community partners will provide a much-needed continuum of services to help our youth navigate the educational and workforce systems with a strong and deliberate focus on work experience and link services to the attainment of a Core 40 diploma, occupational credentials, and entry to post-secondary education or employment. I will close with this. As a young girl who grew up on 46 in Arlington, I remember getting on a bus full of Black kids, Black students riding a minimum of 30 minutes to go to school and pulling up into a township school where it was approximately 80% white students and 20% minority, while passing multiple IPS schools because of the mandatory busing that advocates thought would give all Marion County kids the same access to quality schools. I attended well-funded schools, had access to many resources, and had highly qualified teachers. While busing was well-intended, Black neighborhoods and inner-city schools had to sacrifice for integration. While busing no longer is a thing, we are still losing our students to schools in other districts. It is important that our students and families feel and know that they have the same access right here in their own neighborhood schools. Majority of the students that we have been enrolling live in IPS district but attend schools outside of the district. So for me, this is personal. As someone who is an East Side resident, an active community member in Indianapolis for over 30 years, it is my personal obligation and responsibility to go back and get our kids and bring them back to the district and make sure that they have a sense of pride for their community and school, just as I did. Thank you.
Commissioner Arnold.
Just a couple of questions. Can you talk a little bit about your board composition?
Yes. So our board is made up of, right now, 7 board members. One, a board member who is the co-founder of Ascend Indiana for Employment. We have 2 IPS graduates who work in the tech industry. We have a community liaison, and then we have one who is in law and in education.
Understanding, and you spoke a little bit about this, but I'd like you to expand a little bit more. Understanding that IPS just closed high schools because we don't have enough students for the schools that we have. Where will your students come from?
So most of our students will come from the 46218 area. So over about a year ago, we did a survey on the east side, and over 90 residents and community members took the survey and stated that there was a school needed like this in that area. Right now, there is not a high school in that area. And also over the past year, I have had focus group with multiple parents in the 46218 area. And so most of our students will come from the east side area.
So are they currently IPS students going to the 4 high schools we have? So
No.
it'll be, where are they, where will you draw this?
So we
Where
have
are they currently going?
So we have some who are enrolled that are from township schools from Lawrence. They live in IPS district, but they attend Lawrence Township. There's some who attend Washington Township, Warren Township, and then we have some who attend private schools and some who attend other charter schools.
Okay, so you don't see this as competition for the current students in IPS, or that you'll be drawing students out of current IPS schools to relocate to your school?
No.
Commissioner Gore.
Good evening, and thank you again for coming. Kind of piggybacking on Commissioner Arnold, possibly when you started your school, there may not have been a 46218, but we did just open KIPP Legacy High School. Do you think that might take some of your students? It is in that 46218 area.
No, ma'am. I believe that we have a unique offering. We are really focused on tech and the providing our students opportunities in the tech industry, and so I believe that we have two different missions. So there will be a specific set of students who will want to attend our school.
And another, I'd like to thank Eastern Star for their commitment to the community. I've been in that area, and I think at some point we need to name it Eastern Star Way because you've done such wonderful work there, and we do appreciate it as a community.
Thank you so much, and we want the commissioners to come on out for breakfast or lunch or something, and we'll tour and talk and show you some stuff, okay? All
And
right.
you did just give a lovely donation to School 99. It was in our board report. And again, we appreciate that kind of a commitment from a church, so.
Mr. Hawkins?
Thank you. I do want to say I had the opportunity, I guess it was a week or so ago, to visit 99 and spend some time with Principal Henderson. And just the work that she's doing is phenomenal, and I know in partnership with you at Eastern Star. And so I'm encouraged that whatever, I know that the juice, the special sauce that's happening, the work that's happening at 99, I know that is, you know, it's a pipeline and a trajectory to Rooted. I know that's, as I understand that to be the case. And so I know that I'm excited and expect great things knowing what we're seeing at the K-8 level as well. So tip my hat to you and the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Mr. Slack?
Uh-oh. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate the work that you're doing at Eastern Star. I guess a couple of my questions would be, what were your partnerships with the universities? You said you had 3.
Yes, with Ivy Tech, Marion University, and IUPUI.
And then I guess I'm appreciative on the work that you're doing beside us with the racial equity. What about the culturally competent teaching that you're doing with the unconscious bias? Can you explain that a little bit deeper, please?
Yes, and so that starts with professional development with teachers. I know we talk a lot of schools talk a lot about restorative justice, which is great, but that is also reactive. And so it's important for us to be proactive in our approach. And so it starts with our professional development with our teachers in the summer. And then it goes throughout the year, professional development throughout the year, and it's integrated in their classrooms. And cultural responsive teaching focuses on 4 domains, which is identity, diversity, justice, and action. And so those are filtered throughout the curriculum.
Can you tell me how many number of students you have and staff?
At this moment,
Yes, ma'am.
none at the moment. I am in planning year to open up in fall of 2020.
Okay. And then when you're talking about your board, do you guys have any minutes as of yet?
Yes,
Okay, they will be on the website as well?
yes,
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
thank you.
Mr. Collins?
Yes, thank you. It's an exciting thing to expand on a beautiful idea, and I commend you all for that. I'm wondering a little bit more about the curriculum, as well as you say that you are. Where is your rooted school? Did you say it was going to be at the church?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so there's facilities there, since I'm not familiar with the building. There's facilities there?
Yes. So right now, because they are launching next fall, we have done a walkthrough. We will have classes available for them, as well as we have an art room, a science room, a music room, a full gym. Trying to think. Our cafeteria and banquet hall, so they would have plenty of room to do what they need to do. Now, as they grow and expand, we need to think about that over the next 2-3 years, since they want to add a grade every year. And we have part 2 of our community development that we have said, if we see this progress as we know it will, then we have made a commitment that we will, on some property we have, begin to build so that we can have both a middle and a high school in that building.
Okay, and I wonder, when you said that the technical education was going to be a feature of your high school, am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
And so what specifically does that mean?
So there's multiple graduation pathways right now, and so our students will be able to graduate with the Indiana Academic Honors, but then also the tech certification. So our students will graduate with a minimum of 5+ industry certifications, and right now, which will be in Adobe Certified Associate Web and Mobile Design is one pathway. Autodesk Certified User AutoCAD is another pathway, and then Information Technology.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Real quickly, what are you thinking the size from an optimal standpoint of the school would be?
So we're looking at 75 students per grade level.
Per grade level. Mr. Slack, you have another question?
I'm sorry, I have one more question. I seen your financial literacy piece, and could you please explain that to me, because I'm very curious about that.
So our goal is, so the number, our North Star is 228, and 228 right now is the number of years that it would take for the average African American family to obtain the same amount of wealth as the average white family. And so our goal, what we talk about, is financial freedom and closing that wealth gap. And so even if we get these jobs for our students, it doesn't mean that they know how to handle money. And so starting in their 9th grade year, they will be taking financial literacy classes. We will be partnering with local banks so they know and understand how to handle money as well.
Phenomenal, thank you.
Commissioner Gore.
Thank you, that are in the 46218 area. Tech High School that isn't in that particular area, but it seems that you're offering some of the same courses basically for your high school students, the technical and kind of thing. So are we competitive? Are we working at taking students from tech, or kind of?
No,
Being
ma'am.
an IPS board member, I'm always okay.
To my knowledge, no, because tech high school offerings right now are in architectural design, engineering, and construction, which are different tech offerings than what we have.
Any further questions? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our prospective partners for their time this evening. We will move on to unfinished business. There is one item in unfinished business this month, item 7.01, which included revisions to the meeting and organizational policies of the board. Zach provided a review of those policies on Tuesday evening, and they've now sat through the required 30-day period. So I believe.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 7837, repealing board policy 0150 and approving amended board policy 0160 as presented on Tuesday?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Commissioner Arnold?
I would just like to say I very much appreciate this, being the A in the group, and I'm always the first. Not sure I understand exactly how it's going to work, but I think we've made progress
We'll figure it
from
out.
just going around and acting like we don't know, or that, whatever. So thank you, Zach, for your work,
Yes.
and I'm sure that we'll figure this out as we move forward.
Any further discussion?
And they're done that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. The motion carries.
Thank you. There are 3 items in new business. Item 8.01 is a request for the board's approval of the formal MOU with Indigo. Ahmed Young presented a brief overview and summary of those terms in the MOU on Tuesday. I'll also note that we'll plan to share updated data regarding usage as it becomes available from the Indigo team by the end of first quarter of 2020.
Do I have a motion to approve the MOU with Indigo as presented?
So moved. Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just have one quick question. Time-wise, I want to make sure. So this year, the pilot program was students got the passes, but we provided all the transportation if necessary. Talk to me about next year.
It's
Do they
doing the
select
same.
if they want, next year it's the
Yeah,
same
so we
way
would still provide the passes, but we would still cover with yellow bus transportation as well.
for next year?
Correct.
At the higher costs? or
Correct.
just- Okay.
After this 2 years, then we'll be able to sort of assess what's actually
I
feasible
didn't
and
know if we were to a
possible.
point where they were choosing one or the other yet.
Not
so-
yet.
Not yet, okay.
Commissioner Slack?
So with that clarification, thank you. So what you're saying is that right now, we're just asking us to continue to work further on this issue to see where it goes.
Correct. So we didn't want to commit to more than 2 years, just we don't know exactly what the future will hold beyond that at this point.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you. Item 8.02 was an update provided by Weston Young, our Chief Financial Officer, on our student-based allocation model. He presented an overview of the policy on Tuesday evening that we would use for our school year 2021 budgeting process. And so the administration requests the board's approval of the accompanying resolution regarding that policy.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 7838, approving student-based allocation model for the school year 2020-2021 as presented?
So moved.
It's been moved, and can I call yours a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Hawkins?
For the Finance Committee side of the table here, I just want to acknowledge Jeffrey and Weston and Superintendent Johnson and the team as well, just for the effort put in place to deliver the SBA update for this year with a bend towards equity and English language learners, and we're continuing to move the needle. We're continuing to see ourselves in that top quartile of districts or urban districts around the country that are focused on equity and students, ELL students. So again, I just want to tip my hat to the team and the work. I know it's, again, I said before on Tuesday, it's very complex, but again, I appreciate your hard work. Thank you.
I want to concur with that. I think is this our third year with student-based allocation modeling? And so maybe it's testimony to how slow I am, but I'm finally beginning to understand it. So, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you. Item 8.03 is a request for the board's approval of an innovation agreement renewal for one of our current innovation partners, Phelan Leadership Academy at School 103. The administration will delay our request for the board's approval of Enlace Academy in order to respond to some additional requests for information that commissioners have made. Jamie Vanderwey provided an overview on Tuesday regarding those recommendations, and so we request the approval of Resolution 7839, allowing for the renewal of the partnership with PLA at 103.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 7839, approving an innovation renewal agreement with Phelan Leadership Academy as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Zach, do I need to do the amendment separate? Just ask for approval for that?
Yes, we can do them separately or take them as a single vote, just whatever comfortable. So we have
If
two.
you're all comfortable on the amendments, we could take them as one single vote. Okay.
So I'd also like to ask for the board's approval of the Innovation Network Agreement amendments for both Kendesi Academy and Global Prep Academy as presented in board docs.
Do I have a motion to approve the innovation agreement amendments for Kendesi Academy and Global Prep Academy as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Commissioner Slack?
Now, could we please discuss, these are the last two schools that have not been approved yet.
These are the two of our partners who had a different arrangement for their facilities costs. So this will bring them in line with our other Restart partners, where they will pay for the custodial services provided, but not pay a facilities rental cost.
And 4 of our other ones have already went through this process.
Correct. This was something that we already had in place for those 4, so now we're going back as these two schools' agreements were created before we sort of right-sized that.
And to my clarification is that we are renewing these possibly coming up for renewal next year.
Today, we're just amending the term of the facilities cost. Both schools will be up for the full renewal review next school year, correct? This time next year.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
And I think I just want a clarification too, that we're just doing it for this 1 year and we'll look at it again.
Correct. After the renewal, then we would come back with a recommendation on the full partnership.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Moving to closing comments, does any commissioner wish to offer closing comments? Commissioner Hawkins.
Thank you, President O'Connor. So I have a few remarks I just want to make. So I can't believe that 2019 is over. It feels like just a few days ago I was standing with Commissioners Collins and Slack, reciting the oath of office, whatever that is called. But it feels like that was yesterday. And It's just want to bear witness to the fact that IPS, as Commissioner Arnold stated, is doing some amazing and phenomenal things. In particular, we saw some of just the long overdue school leader and principal and staff pay increases. And again, thank you to our community for believing in IPS. I guess about this time last year, maybe a few days removed, with regard to the referendum. Simultaneously, we're also seeing trends that indicate that we're starting to chip away at this teacher attrition reality that we've been living with as a district for some time, and so I wanted to lift that up. Enrollment's up, which is phenomenal. Positive financial performance, again, rooted in the referendum, but also sound financial practice and management. I also want to acknowledge the fact that, again, to the SB8 discussion earlier, this is rooted in the foundation of equitable distribution of dollars, and that's key, and that's who we are. New building projects that are ensuring that our children are safe as they enter and exit our schools. I'm proud of our district's double, triple, quadruple down and commitment to racial equity, and I'm excited about what's to come in 2020 on that front. Award ceremonies and student performances and athletic competitions and the pinnacle event graduations were just some of the events that I had the opportunity to attend, which were amazing. And then I think a capstone to that was this board's appointment of Superintendent Johnson to the role of superintendent. And so I wanted to lift that up. And so as we think about, as I think about 20 and 25 and beyond, we still know there's much more to do. We know that there are thousands of children in IPS that are in underperforming schools, thousands of black and brown children burdened by an achievement gap. And frankly, this achievement gap in itself assumes that students of color should only improve by 30 points. That's the gap today, which to me is a logic that's flawed. It's a hope gap. It's an opportunity gap. We have greater work to do. And so I just want to lift up the fact that incremental progress is not the standard for IPS. It's bold standards are who we are. And so in 2020, I especially look forward to working with this board and administration and our community to dig in, particularly on the topics of what is working and what isn't working and for who. And we've had a few conversations at the board table. We've had a few conversations, particularly members of the community have offered this as something to focus on, but it's something that we must do, I think, as we move this district forward. And so with that being said, on a high note, again, I want to just thank this community for the opportunity to serve you. And wish you an incredible, and your families and the city of Indianapolis as well, the IPS family and the city of Indianapolis, happy holidays and a safe and happy new year.
Commissioner Gore?
I'd like to just clarify that no, I did not attend all Commissioner Arnold's affairs. But I would like to thank our administration, specifically our superintendent, our staff, transportation, teachers, our police, and all for a great year. It has been a great year. It moved very fast. It's either my age or stage, but it did seem that the year went by very fast. And I'd like to wish all of our students and all a happy holiday season. Thank you.
Commissioner Slack. Sorry.
Oh, you can go first.
No, you go right ahead.
Go ahead. All right. I want to say thank you too as well. Like Evan, our commissioner Hawkins has said before, I want to ditto all of what he said. I want to also say thank you for a great year, and it has been very learning curve, I guess I would say. Also want to say thank you to the admin team and Superintendent Johnson, this board, our parents, our staff, our community that has worked so hard this year. And I know that you guys deserve a break and can't wait for the holidays, as is I, as a parent. So I want to say, wish you a happy and safe holiday.
Commissioner Arnold?
I have a memorial that I would like to read into the record. This is a memorial to Sam Davis. Whereas Sam Davis served the Indianapolis Public Schools for 31 years, whereas his years of service contributed positively and significantly to the Indianapolis Public School students. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of School Commissioners of the City of Indianapolis that the death of Sam Davis be memorialized and that a copy of this memorial be sent to the members of his family. During his 31 years of service, Sam worked as an assistant and head custodian at Thomas Carr Howell Middle School, Shortridge Middle School, Emma Donnan, Positive Supports Academy, and Longfellow Middle School. Sam Davis developed a special relationship with the students, faculty, and staff. He was always willing to help where and when needed. He would often purchase needed items for students, such as shoes, clothing, coats, and school supplies. Sam would sponsor pizza parties for the students, always encouraging them to be the best they could be. He proudly coached the boys and girls basketball and baseball teams. He made sure they had the necessary equipment, even if he had to purchase it himself. He purchased equipment for the track and field team and even helped them with their reading and math. His kindness and generosity were immeasurable. He will truly be missed.
Thank you, Commissioner Arnold. Commissioner Collins? You?
I'd just like to say that I feel very privileged to have spent the last year with all the board members and with our new superintendent and all the leadership, as well as all the wonderful parents and teachers and principals that I've met. And it just encourages me further to recognize and acknowledge the joy that I have in serving the people of Indianapolis and our public schools. And I hope everyone has traveling mercies and joy and happiness over this holiday season. I look forward to 2020. It's going to be exciting.
Thank you. I just have, since we're going to be here all night anyway, I've just got a couple closing comments. First, I want to point out that at the end of the meeting on Tuesday, the superintendent suggested it was a great idea that we have an ugly sweater. And so I brought mine, but the superintendent failed to bring hers, so I refused to wear mine. But I do have one. I do have one that I gave as a gift to my wife a few years ago at Christmas. I just want to concur with what all the other board members said to our phenomenal staff. We had a conversation earlier this evening about the hard road we have been on, certainly for the 4.5 years I've been on this board. You all have performed admirably. We hope we have been able to address compensation system-wide for all of you, for all of our staff, for the wonderful work our teachers do. And I want to thank my fellow board members, both for the opportunity to serve as board president for this year, but also for the lessons that I've learned from each and every one of you. I have learned more, I think, than I've been able to offer this board. And so thank you for the year that we've spent together this year. And I hope everyone has a happy and safe holiday season. And I look forward to seeing everyone in 2020. Superintendent, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Just indulge me for a couple of more minutes. December has been a really busy month for our district. I think I say that now every month, so I need a different starting line maybe. It's always busy. But I do want to note a couple of things that are really exciting, particularly in athletics. We hosted our first ever girls swim meet at Arsenal Tech on December 5th. It was a big success, so very excited to have girls swimming as an offering in our district now. We also wrapped up the elementary and middle school boys basketball season with Russo McClellan School 91 winning the elementary league and Seidner Academy winning the middle school league. So congrats to those schools and teams. We also culminated our basketball season with our first ever middle school all-star game last weekend. I actually ran into a parent whose son participated, and she said it was a really great event, a great day. So we're excited to have that offering for our students. And I congratulate all of our student athletes. Many of our schools have been both the givers and receivers of a lot of holiday cheer. As you all, if you're on Twitter, you've seen all the different events, as Commissioner Arnold spoke about. Last week here at the Ed Center, we welcomed choirs from Edison School of the Arts, George Washington Carver, and William Penn. We were also treated to band performances from Edison and Shortridge, along with a dance and movement performance from James Wickham Riley, School 43. So very excited to have welcomed them here, and also a big thanks to David Newman on our curriculum and instruction team who coordinated and managed all of those performances to happen here. We've had so many community partners work with our schools during this holiday season, and we talked in the state of the district about being a stronger together IPS, and that's what we're talking about. We have so many folks who've just wrapped themselves around our schools and our students, and we look forward to in the new year recognizing them for all of their efforts. Today was the last day of class for our students, so I want to wish them a wonderful and restful holiday break. Our staff has one more day to close out the semester, and then they will also be on break, so I want to wish our entire team a wonderful and restful break as well. As a reminder, we will be offering meal service over the break at a number of district sites, so please visit the website at www.myips.org for a listing of those sites and the meal service times. But wishing everyone a safe and prosperous holiday season and New Year.
Thank you. Our next meeting will be our organizational meeting on Monday, January 6th at 6 p.m. in this room. Having completed all the items on the last agenda of 2019, this meeting stands adjourned.